one thing I do with guitar students is a cool kind of ear training where it takes two people. It's like I say to the guitar player, so you're here, so you say, I say play a D natural, play this note, right? Just the note, way up there. Yeah. So that's your note. Now all you have to do is not look at what I'm playing, so that you're not using your eyes to figure out what I'm doing. Because if you look at my hand and you see that I'm doing a chord, oh yeah, I see that that's that. That's the wrong sense. That's like, listening for your food, so that's not how you're going to taste it, So the thing is, are you to really taste the chord, the sound that you're hearing, you're playing a D, so you know what that is. We all push buttons when we play an instrument. I push this D button, and the idea is I know what that means, and if I say I'm going to play a D minor scale, then I can find the notes in the scale. But the other thing is, do I know what that note means to the other sounds I hear around me? So, making it more confusing than it is, I'll stop talking. So go ahead, play the D, and someone else can guess. Like so you know what note you're playing. The disadvantage is you don't have your instrument to kind of fiddle around if it's not apparent. But I'm going to play a chord and tell me what chord I'm playing. Simple thing. So go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4. What note is he playing in the chord? What sound are we making together? Knowing that he's playing a D, pretend you're playing a D. So what's the other? Put that note in perspective. Put that note in context. Because this is the way we use our ears when we play. We know what we're playing, but do we know what anybody else is playing? So that's the thing. It's the way to see, and that's a sound. We can't really play that whole chord on the guitar, but it's a sound that we should know because we play. Answer X.
A minor.
A minor. So what notes did I play?
11.
Right. So he's playing the 11. Right. There's math involved too. It's like you have to use your. It's really like tasting food because you get a sensation and then you use your memory to say, oh yeah, that's coconut. That's that's mortadella. I know that flavor. Right. I know what that tastes like. It's a sense. Mortadella just means that's just the word you use to describe. So A minor 11th. But the idea is that when you're playing, you hear. So I was playing the 9th. It was hard to hear. Yeah. So to hear down the chord, and you use your instrument. It's not like you look up and try to close your eyes. It's like, no, use this machine. Hit some other buttons and see if they. Well, that's not it. Right away, you know that you stepped in the wrong place. So okay, that note's out. Now you start to. You're always a half step away from a note that probably sounds okay, right? What's that? Now you're supposed to get the sensation of a 9th, the 11th, the 3rd, the 9th, right? It's like you bite into a sandwich. There's bread, mortadella, and some formaggio too, right? It's all the senses, the sensations working together to create the full effect. That's what we want to try to hear music, and we play chords. So if you play this and I play this. What's that? Now what's his note? That's a color. That's the 9th, right? That's it. Those are some pistachio nuts on top of the right. That's it. You identify that as what that is on top, right? So the idea is that this is a chord you play. We can actually play this chord. So if we can't play a note in this chord and then hear the bottom, then that means we're playing the chord more by like a machine, then we're not tasting it. We're just eating it to stay alive, and not starve. But are we really tasting the food? Not if you live in Italy and you don't taste food, that's such a shame, So you just do it. It's cultural that you taste and enjoy that. But music is the same thing. And but are we approaching the sounds that we learn as so-called jazz musicians, whether we play guitar or any, saxophone players? You got to sit at the piano and play some nice voicings. You can't play a chord like, like on the piano, like just some, because it's the note. You have to try to make your ear want to hear a pretty voicing, and then that's what tells you how to play inside the sound of a chord. Anyway.
How do you go about comping, and how do you behave if you're or you're not playing with a bass player or a piano player too? And how do you create movement with that? Like how do you break out of chord shapes and comping a tune with the same pattern?
Well, that's a huge thing. I mean, I think the main thing, and you won't stress this enough, is you have to practice comping. You know, for every 100 choruses you play, are you soloing 99 and comping once just to make your backing track, and then you solo 99 choruses? So your soloing is going to get stronger, right? Because you're exercising this muscle is going to get really, but the comping muscle is just going to be, you just did the one chorus, you know. So try to play chorus after chorus of comping a tune, because the main thing is that you're going to get bored of playing the same chords very quickly and find some other stuff. That's the best motivation, is boredom. You know, bored, I don't want to play this chord again, so I'm going to find another chord. You know, and it's just about looking through it. And then what you find, especially with the way comping works and the way forms work and movement works, is that it's not about going from chord to chord and having 5 different ways to play a certain chord and then just plugging them in randomly based on, you know, like a computer throws out different, you know. The point is, are you hearing this, the form as movement, as how do I get from this chord to my next place? So that's it. It's directional. There's up, there's down. You can go across. You can go. You know, it's just like any kind of. So it's just looking and playing songs slow. It helps because you have to get off the chords. You can't sit on a 1 chord for 8 beats, even at a fast tempo, and because it's not about just sitting there and then standing up real fast and then sitting down and then standing up. The whole point is just touch it as you go by, touch the chair as you go by. We're going to play Out of Nowhere. We're messing around with it kind of fast, which is different for this tune. But the thing about it, even if it's fast, it doesn't really help you that much because you have to think about. Everyone know that song, Out of Nowhere?
Yeah.
Right. So the whole idea is, how do you go from G to E flat 7 or B flat minor? The idea is, you know, that's on the way, right? But the whole idea is to think about the chord scale as something that I can move. That's not like one inversion, you know, that's, you're moving your hand, but you're not doing anything except just like moving the chair around. You're not, you know what I mean? The point is to get up off the chair, right? So you have some sense of how to, I'm going to try to land in the chair. But when you land, you don't really sit in it either, because this is also a thing of movement. And to get back to G major from E flat 7, you go to B flat minor or E flat 7. Everything is a choice. You know, you look at a chart, it might say 2 bars of G major and then E flat 7, but you're free as to how to interpret what that means and to move between those chords. So the idea is E flat 7 going back to G is not, if you count and use your fingers, it's not 5-1. Right? So what's that movement? That comes right from classical music, this kind of, that's the sound, like a dominant chord with the 7th in the bass even, like that's, I don't know where that comes from exactly, but it's in, you know, and so it's connected by the, and what you have is this diminished, then you have the, right? So that's how this would resolve right into the track. This is where you have to, as a guitar player, sit at a piano and just see all those voices settle into where. Now, of course, that's not really jazz to play that kind of, but that can be at the root of what you're doing. It can also be coming from here. It's not quite as classically correct because but sometimes we have to fudge a little bit, but that's the sound. You know. So I definitely don't want to think about going from E flat 7 to G. I want to think about this E flat there. Now, if we're playing with a bass player, that's not really my responsibility because he's dealing with the roots. So I have another part of the chord up. But you asked about when there's no bass player, so it means you just kind of have to play more of the, cover more of the feel. But it's all about movement to cover the feel if you're playing, and just comp, go through chorus after chorus of the tune, and comp, put a metronome on to keep yourself in time, you know. That's one thing you can do is diminish into the one, that sound. And you try to think about those movements, and also a melodic thing. Get a little bit busy, it becomes not really like comping, kind of taking a little bit of a cutesy pie chord solo, you know, like you're trying to do like a little big band, send up, shout chorus kind of thing. Just stop yourself from getting too busy and try to remember to play things that are supportive. But you can play rhythm. Everything could be, it's a possibility for passing. Second inning. And keep going. I already did that, so we gotta think of some other stuff, right? Not to do is make a big thing about going. It's like, why? That stops the movement when I land on the root. Just to land on the root again, 8 beats, right? 4 beats later. So just try to make it circular. Try to go towards the spots where, it seems to land, but then don't land really, and try to think about the next place you have to go. It's always about moving forward. Now, that's it. You just remember, you'll build little things, little ways, and trying to, trying to move the form along. And then when you have a thing, try to say, what else could it be? How could I, make it something else? Realizing, well, I might not hit that chromatic thing if you don't want to impose too much, but you want to have options. You want to be able to not just be locked into having to play the same voicings all the time. But it's just about going through chorus after chorus of trying to comp, just like you're going through chorus after chorus of trying to play different things to solo on, because you don't want to play the same chorus every chorus. So it's the same principle. Just steal, comping, and then absorb it. And well, I can't really do all that, but I can try to get a part of it, or you know what I mean. It's about same thing when you steal solo stuff. Play what you can, you try to absorb and turn it into something else.
Who do you think you've stolen the most for comping?
Comping? Well, lots of people, but I try to listen to piano players. I definitely got, just from seeing Jim Hall up close comping, just the way he would feel and support like a whole rhythm section. Even though he wasn't, he would strum, and he wasn't about doing a lot. It was the implication and how strong the movement was and how much he could do with just some moving voices and how much of a sense of arranging he had. Like he would just make this section a little thing and then this section would release it. So that's my model for seeing someone do it in front of me on a guitar. A pianistic approach and kind of an orchestrator approach to harmony with 6 strings. So I saw him do it, and that. That's huge. But I also listen to all guys comp, Wynton Kelly, Sonny Clark, McCoy, Herbie, you know, so many, Harold Mayburn, so many great compers, like just, if you just kind of take your ears off the top of the music and the part, every once in a while, the shiny part, the solo, and just go down into what's happening underneath the surface of that, and hearing how the piano players, you know, rhythmically, because guitar players, they have to be able to speak the language. Otherwise, it's an age-old question of how do guitar players and piano players comp together? It's like, first of all, just be quiet, listen, try to absorb, you know, if you feel a place, go in, jump in, but don't disturb if that's strong, you know, and try to, like I say, speak their language, try to play rhythms like a piano can, you know, like piano is a drum, I mean, it's a percussion instrument, so there's that, you know, connection to the drums, and locking in, listen to how drummers comp and how the accents they use, you can absorb that language, then things. I mean, you're not always comping for the soloist. Sometimes you're comping with the rhythm section. Sometimes you're comping with, like, you're doing something with the drums. You don't have to respond to everything the soloist does. You want to be able to lay down a solid foundation. Repetition is important in comping. Just with rhythmic things, just with kind of figures, with there's some kind of thing that the soloist can subconsciously feel is coming around again. Just a rhythmic idea of... You know, just like, and then do it again. You know, so that there's some sense of like, well, even if everybody has to be hitting the same things, but everyone's thinking along the lines of developing little things that set up and then get released. You know, they go towards something. You know, and so that's how you can kind of be consistent and stay out of a soloist's way, because they can kind of even subconsciously feel where the space is for them to play. If you leave some space, you know, it's not a really busy thing, you know. Setting up like a little area of activity, but then if everyone's flowing, it can work. But the thing I find is that you want to learn the forms better. It's not just learning more stuff, more voicings, because then you're like, where do I put all this stuff? Getting into the forms is what shows you where stuff needs to go. Then you find what you need to put there, because the form is telling you it's on this one chord for a long time, so you know you have to anticipate, you know. Think ahead to get there. So then all these kind of things, all that is the connecting chords to go to another kind of one chord. Right? And it's just getting, and I try to do it with 3 voices, because you have more flexibility. You can just a little, but just you have your hands free to try some movements and just, you know, it's just like this. It's really just like it's like puppetry. You know, you try to get better at controlling little dudes and what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's what, you know, like, but it takes a long time. It's very hard. You know, you get stuck on one string, and then all of a sudden the puppet's like going, you know, why didn't you do that? Sorry, you know, like your hands are tied up. You know, it's just, but that's what it is. You're trying to. And the less you start with and more you work on what each voice can do, clearer you can. You're not. This guitar is messed up. It teaches you all these big chords to play. You know. Okay, that's great. It's a fine chord, but what is essential to that chord and what is the extra? You know, guitar, sometimes we think about trying to play bigger, but guitar makes you play more notes than you need sometimes, you know, just by trying to, you know, whoever wants to play this chord, why would you play that? You know, it's a terrible sounding, you don't need to, you know, it's just about, I remember when I started really checking out Monk, I heard him play an A, some kind of dominant chord with the ninth, where he just played, that was it, and I was like, yeah, that's the sound. You could probably go, you know, because the open strings ring different. But if you think about it, those notes are in this chord, but they're just those intervals aren't speaking because of all the you have two fifths and a seventh. But that's how guitar players we're taught shapes. We're taught even cool shapes like you know whatever. We're still thinking about a shape as opposed to what voices do I need. Monk just. That's what I want. I don't want anything between here and here. Now, what chord in Mel Bay book shows you that? None. They're all about, you know. I mean, it's this. This chord starts to sound bad right when we use it. I like it here. That's it. That's all we got, you know. But when we start to play this chord, 1, 5, 7, 3. Right here. That's when it starts to sound bad to me, to my ears. So it's like, why does it sound bad? Well, that fifth is not strong as, or so that's what a chord is. It's a collection of the intervals. So this chord is not the same as this chord. It's not the same as this chord. You know, obviously, it's not the same, but. One thing that blew my mind was when I found this chord. I believe that in 2 meters, it doesn't sound all that close enough, but this chord is the only difference between this chord and this chord is that the A is down an octave. So instead of going, you're going. Now, why that? I mean. That sounds so different to me, and I realize it's because the intervals are different in that chord. You don't have this. You have this. You have this, and you have. Now you have this in that chord, but then you also have this, right? In this chord you have right 2/10 and 2/4, and you have this. Now this chord.